being self-taught can be really, really tough because you have nobody to tell you that you're making some pretty dumb mistakes really early on. And I realized when I was done with this painting that I made several really simple, silly mistakes. And I thought I'd go ahead and share those. So the first thing that I learned, if you're going to paint skin tones and you want color accurate skin tones, start with a picture with color accurate skin tones. And that sounds so obvious, but whenever you have a picture and you're not really editing it and you just jump in to start painting it, I don't know, I didn't realize it right away. I mean, I know that it wasn't perfectly accurate, but I didn't realize how important that it was for me to try and paint the same color tones that I knew that it should be, if that makes sense. So I was looking at my arm and going, all right, it should be about that color, but I'm looking at the picture that you can kind of see down there in the bottom left, and I'm taking the values and stuff from that, and then I'm trying to combine it with my own skin tone that I'm seeing in front of me, and it's really not working. You're going to see that here in just a second when I start adding color. Basically, just get a good image and paint the same colors that are in that image if that's what you're going for. And I'm going for realism here, and so that's what I was trying to do, was get color accurate skin tones with a really poorly edited image. And I say poorly edited photo because this image that I'm working off of was taken in very bright sunlight in the middle of the day. It was just when my wife and we had a new camera and she wanted to take a photo of me, so crossed my arms, threw up my hood, and she snapped a photo. When I got home, I didn't like the photo, so I put it in Photoshop and completely made the background dark and just made it look mysterious. And that ends up being a terrible thing for me to work from because I lost all the accurate colors in the editing process of this photo. And then, so trying to paint that has just been such a bear, and I really wish I would have had a better photo to at least reference for the different colors. But what would have really helped me, I think even more so than that, which is kind of showing at the bottom right now, is the other thing that I really, really learned from this is give myself a lot more space to mix colors on a palette before applying that to the canvas. And so I'm kind of mixing little bits of color down on these little ceramic palette things, and then I'm putting it onto the on my painting, and I'm kind of mixing with the colors surrounding what I've already applied up there, and that's just making everything super muddy and not accurate at all. And it, like I said before, it doesn't help that I don't have any kind of color accurate thing to reference right now other than my arm in front of me. But that made it so much more difficult on myself, just not mixing the colors that I needed first, and instead going, I need a little bit of red, so I'd add a little bit of red onto the painting, and then I need a little bit of yellow ochre, and so I'd grab that up and I'd add a little bit of yellow ochre on the painting. And I think that's called canvas mixing, and that's just a terrible experience when you're trying to go for color accuracy and realism. It just was not working for me, at least. And that was the second thing that I really learned, is give myself a proper palette, mix my colors on the palette, and then apply them onto the painting. And I think that's going to not just help with my color accuracy, but I think it's going to help with speed, and I won't get so frustrated because you're going to end up with a lot less muddy colors when you do that. And that's kind of what I mean by silly mistakes, is something like that. It's obvious to so many people. It just wasn't obvious to me. Being self-taught, I had nobody to tell me that, bro, you're not mixing colors first. You know, you're doing it too limited on the palette, and then you're trying to do too much on the painting. So why don't you just reverse that? And it's something that simple that can really just change not just this one painting, but was going to change every painting moving forward. And I know that sounds so simple and obvious to so many people, but when you're in the weeds and self-taught, it's sometimes just hard to recognize those really little things. that you should or shouldn't be doing. Now, there's something simple that you're going to see coming up is that I let the cropping of this image really affect how I was drawing in the different things like the hand. So what I mean by that is I see the hand, my image is not cropped the same proportions as my painting. So I'm trying to, I think, fit too much of the hand into the painting. So then because of that, I kind of shrunk the hand down and I made it really bitty. And it should have been much larger, which I think it got closer to it, but I'm not sure that I even got the right size of the hand in the end. And luckily, there's so much of it covered up by the position of it with the jacket and such that I don't think anybody could really tell. But I think it's probably, if I had to guess, still a little too small for what it should be. And I think that I let the cropping really affect me for this. So, and you probably even saw at the very early stages of this, the hands and everything were actually moved up much higher in the painting. Everything was much smaller. And I think what happened there too was actually just the shadows of my face. I drew kind of like the outline of the lit area of my face, and that kind of threw off the proportions of everything else. That's one thing that I just really need to try and focus on, is if I'm going to crop something, still trying to make sure that I get the proportions right and accurate for where I'm cropping the image. Or at least what I could probably do is crop the photo to match the exact same proportions as what I'm painting. And then this is where I get the bright idea of, let's add even more color. And that was the biggest mistake that I made, because I had to repaint what felt like everything, but I had to repaint so much stuff that it felt like it took forever to get this painting back to where it was. And I don't know what I was thinking here. I really should have just gone with a glaze. And I don't know how to glaze properly yet. I learned a little bit in this painting. You'll see in just a minute whenever we switch angles. But the glazing process, I think, really scared me. And so I tried to add too opaque of color on top of everything. And that's where it ended up looking more like makeup than it did oil paint. So I hated that. That was just miserable. And this, you can see right there, just added a little bit more color, a little bit more saturation, a little bit more shadows. And that's where I think I was glazing a little bit better. But it's still also new to me. You know, glazing is supposed to be a mixture of your oil to the mineral spirits, and you can change the color on top, and it didn't work out for me. Not very well. And then, other than not being able to figure out how to design my own painting, that pretty much wraps this one up. If you have any super simple mistakes that you've made, let me know in the comments below. And if you want to check out more, click on this video right here.